First one is to talk about pickleball courts, which we've been talking about for many years. Hi, Carol. But Jansen, I'll let you get started first.
All right, thank you. So over the last, I don't know, it's been about a year and a half now, we had talked about expanding options for pickleball in the city and having designated courts. Right now we have shared courts at, we have one court striped at Sam Macy Park, shared with a tennis court. And then at Ken Cleveland Park, we have two striped that are also shared with a tennis court. And then we have a number of courts that are shared at the rec center and available in the mornings, as well as when the weather is not conducive for outdoor pickleball. So there's some visitors here from the Medina Pickleball Association and Carol Erickson, who have been in contact with us for quite a while now regarding pickleball in the city of Medina. And they have established a 501c3, and I'm actually not sure what the membership is at this point. 120? 155 members from all around Medina County and probably surrounding county, I would assume. I was provided with a survey from the Pickleball Association. I figured I would just kind of run through some highlights that were in that. It's up on the board there. Probably can't see it from that distance. So one of the questions was, how often do you play? And 53% of the responses were every other day, and 26 were at least weekly. The most frequent place that participants were playing was at the rec center, followed by Ken Cleveland Park, Sam Macy Park, and AI Route, and I'm sure Whitetail is in there now. I didn't see it on the survey, but the township built courts over in Whitetail, Montville Township. The average time that participants are playing, 93% of them are playing in the morning, and the age group, 63% were over the age of 65, and 34% were between the ages of 46 to 64. 85% of the survey responses were from the 44256 zip code. So that information is helpful. Obviously, pickleball is a growing sport, and we're starting to see a lot of the younger children, I guess, if you will, becoming involved with it. So we need to explore our options for building some dedicated courts in the city. I've came up with three options for consideration here for funding. Option one on the slide here, it is Ken Cleveland Park. It would be to, this would be the most cost-effective way to get a couple courts, and it would be eliminating the tennis court highlighted in yellow and resurfacing through crack filling, not a complete rebuild. So it would buy us about anywhere from 2 to 5 years before we'd have to address this again. We'd be utilizing crack armor technology, which can create dead spots in a pickleball court. The project would involve putting in fencing to divide the two courts, and then eliminating the tennis court and having dedicated pickleball courts. This is probably the least favorable option, but I wanted to put it out there for you to see. That comes in at approximately we'll call it $38,000. The quote is from April of 2022, so it's likely that those prices have went up. Option two is at Ray Mellert Park, as we had previously discussed, when we were creating a site plan for Ray Mellert Park, working through our capital bill grant to expand the parking lot and relocate the dog park. We identified a future active recreation area, which would be suitable for pickleball courts. It's directly adjacent to the parking lot. There is running water and restrooms at that location seasonally. It's currently green space. The cost for this option, which would be 4 dedicated pickleball courts with fencing, would be approximately $165,000, excluding prevailing wage and any unforeseen stabilization that might be necessary because of the foundation from the house that used to be located there. All these prices I should have mentioned are through the National Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, which is a turnkey project through Vasco Sports Contractors. Option 3, we had a meeting, myself, Jim Shields, and Ryan O'Call, and Steve Mishler from Medina City Schools to look at tennis courts at AI Root Middle School that have been striped for pickleball by our park staff a few years ago, so that we had some courts on the south end of town. These courts, I would say they're underutilized, especially during the summer, and they do need some work. We met out there because there could potentially be substantial cost savings because the fencing's already there. The base is there, and essentially we would have to mill the existing tennis courts down to the aggregate, regrade the aggregate, put in some drainage, repave with virgin pavement, set new posts, and we could get 6 pickleball courts with ample spacing in between them in that area and have 6 dedicated courts. You can see on the photo there that there is parking where there's currently recycling dumpsters just northeast of those courts, and it's directly adjacent from the entrance to Fred Greenwood Park. This project is a relatively recent quote as of September 19th, came in at $193,783. So it is a little bit more than the Ray Mellert project, but we're getting 2 additional courts. The fencing would be much higher, and the spacing would be a little bit greater between the courts. So that's kind of where we're at. I'm not sure if the maybe Councilman Shields might have more information on how the school.
And I was going to say, I guess at the schools with that price, we could potentially be splitting it 50-50. So it would take that in half as far as what the city's obligation would be. I think we talked about that. Those courts are 27 years old. They were built when the building was built in 1995. They're at the point where we need to do something with them. And if we're going to do something with them, that's what gave me the idea, because we do have a lot of people over there playing pickleball. I've also had a great conversation with our PE teacher at that building, and she's very interested in, Carol, I had shared with her over at Wadsworth Middle School how they brought somebody in to teach classes and teach pickleball, and she thought it was great. She, thought this would be a great thing we could use those courts for, and also start having the kids utilize them as well. So that's what kind of gave me the idea, like we need to do something with those courts, at least to get them in better shape. And I had asked Jansen to come just to talk about courts in general, and then that's where, from that discussion, we came up with this idea about, well, maybe we could do something jointly and get more courts, use some of the fencing that's already there. And we did run it by the schools facilities committee last week. They liked the idea as well. They're certainly open to some kind of partnership if that's the path, but I don't want to, obviously I've got an interest in both the city and the schools, so That's why I came up with the idea, but I'll let Bill and Denny kind of weigh in here too. And I know we need to get pickleball courts, so any one of these three things are better than what we have right now. But there's definitely a demand, and it's something I get asked about a lot. Could we do something with pickleball courts and have a dedicated space for pickleball players? Carol? Oh, well, hold on one second. Well, you guys want to ask questions, or you want me to? Go ahead, Bill.
Yeah, the number 3 project, the project that's when we talked about it last night, you know, that I don't know, to me, that's you know, that's the number of courts, it's the cost sharing with the school. And what I think I hear you're saying, Jim, is that the schools would also be able to use the courts, they would use it for teaching and for when school's on?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a lot of the things that have happened here that people have taken time to put together, because it's the cooperative, you know, the cooperation between the schools and the city has been a huge payoff for us. And I was telling somebody last night that one of the requests I get brought to me most often has been about pickleball, you know, and the need for more courts. So the one that kind of jumps out is, if you look at the shared cost and you look at the number of courts we could get, and I think also, I could be wrong, but my sense of the location at Root and being across from Fred Greenwood Park, to me, that would be a really good area to have it. I started to play pickleball. I played tennis when I was went to college, and I have found pickleball to be much easier for me now. And I don't have to move quite so far, and I don't have to move quite so fast, so I enjoy it a lot. So I will have to abstain because I'm just joking. But yeah, no, I think what we talked about last night, I think that one makes sense. If in fact it can come to fruition, it would be great for the community.
And I agree with everything that Bill just said, that, you know, just, especially the shared cost between the city and the schools, which we've been able to accomplish so much over the years with the partnership. My only question, Jansen, would we still be able to maintain the painted areas in Greenwood if we went with this option, or would you convert them back to tennis? I mean, would that?
Are you talking like Sam Macy and Ken Cleveland?
Yes.
Where we have shared courts?
Yes.
We would continue to have those there.
Yeah.
It's worked out. And, you know, initially we had some conflict, but I think that's behind us now. And what's going to help that situation is having dedicated courts.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree, and along with Bill, when it comes to recreation, the two things that's on the agenda tonight, the number one would be pickleball, of course, but the skate park also. But the pickleball, I've probably had, probably in the last 3 years, at least a dozen people that have either run into me at Bueller's or some other restaurant in town, or have actually emailed me or called me about, you know, requiring about pickleball and how, and again, if you just look at the survey that was up there, the most response that we're getting from the population is the older response, the older age group response. And I think that's just a great thing, a great exercise for us gray hairs, so. Thanks, Jensen, for your work and your thoughts.
Sure.
So when we're talking about the collaboration with the schools, did the committee at the schools determine what the split would be? Are we talking like 50-50 or?
I think that's how we approached it, was like maybe a 50-50 split, but
Okay.
we really ran it more just conceptually, whether they thought that might be something worthwhile and something the schools would want to invest in. I didn't want to get too far until we talked about it here. And
Understood. Then my second question is, out of respect for the schools, would they see this as certain times it would be for the school only, or some of the courts for the school only and some of the courts still open for the public? I'm just trying to visualize how we would split this up.
Yeah.
I can understand during the school day, there may be more of a need, you know, Monday through Friday during the school day. But again, whether they need all 6, if you only have one or two gym classes, could 2 of the 6 be set aside for the schools and the other 4 for community use?
And they do have 2 gym classes per period. They have 2 gym teachers or 2 PE teachers. One of the things she reminded me, though, is that at the most, it would be probably a 2-week. They kind of, every 2 weeks changed what sport. And
Oh,
she wasn't expecting to do it the second 9 weeks or the third 9 weeks. She'd be
Right.
first during the fall, 9
Okay.
weeks, and then the spring 9 weeks. But really, other than that 2-week period, then they would not, they'd teach a unit on it, the same way
Right.
they do tennis or track and field or volleyball.
Sure.
And then they would move on, so.
So it would really be a manner of scheduling between the 2 groups to accommodate
Kind of
both.
let them know this is when the unit's happening. And,
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay. And you foresee that even if they did need it for the 9 weeks, they wouldn't need all 6? They would need at the most 2?
Carol, I was going to say, there's probably 25 students in each class, so the most that it would ever be out there would be, but I don't, usually what they do is if one gym teacher, PE teacher, they're going to let me have it for saying gym as opposed to PE. If one PE teacher is doing that unit, then they usually have the other one doing something else. So it would probably be like 25 kids for 2 weeks that they would, and that's roughly from 7:30 to 2:30 is when
Right.
the PE
Right.
periods would be.
Okay, thank you.
So Carol, if there was 25 students out there, could they do it on 4 courts instead of 6 and still have 2 open?
Yes, the unique thing about.
Oh, Carol, I'm sorry, I was going to ask you too, if you would mind coming over to one of the, you can, yeah, we can have you sit down. We just, there should be a little button there to make sure. Yeah, sorry, I know for the taping purposes, it will help.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right. The unique thing about pickleball is it's a large group sport, and you don't have like one court here, one court there, one court there, and unlike tennis or basketball, where you bring your own friends to play, pickleball is open play. You can look on the internet, find where they play all over the United States, and they'll tell you what times and what days they play. You show up there, you're welcome. And it's a very social game, so not everyone has to be playing at the same time. We've had, at Whitetail, they have 5 courts there. We've had 48 people playing on, not on 5 courts at one time, but half of them on the courts, it's 20 people, and then the other 28 waiting. And you rotate. A game is 15 minutes. You rotate in and out, you play with different people, you play against different people. It's very social. And that's why we need the more courts in one area, the better. So you can have half the class playing, half the gym class playing, and the other half watching, learning, waiting, socializing, and it works out. Oh, one thing, there's no restroom facilities there.
That is,
Yeah, and we've got a lot of elderly people. We've got people in their 80s, and they can't play there. They need a restroom.
and Jensen, can you put the picture back up of the Root property there?
Root?
Yeah, Root property one, where it shows the, so the best I could do on bathrooms is right there. They do have, for the stadium and the baseball, softball fields over there, there is a dedicated men's and women's restroom that is open that you cannot get into the building. But as you can see, I mean, we could certainly open that during the day and work something out, but it is a little bit of a walk from here all the way over here. It's designed so it can be about halfway between everything.
Okay.
But that is the one building that has dedicated bathrooms for the public for athletic events over there.
Very good. Thank you.
The other thing we could do that most, at Ken Cleveland, there is a portable toilet. During the peak season in the summer, we could certainly do that, and we have worked with associations in the past to allow those. They're currently all over the rec fields just outside the rec center right now for youth football.
And that's probably what we'd have to do in the summertime, and the building is open. There'll be somebody there at the building during the day in the summer, but in the evenings, there's not, from June to August. In the spring and fall, the building's literally open from 7 in the morning till 11:30 at night, that I have a custodian there that could help with the bathrooms. Carol, do you have any thought, or any of you, on all three of these? I mean, is it your thought that option C is the best, or option 3?
I think option 3 gives us more courts, less price per court if you break it down. You get 6 courts. And right now at Whitetail, I mean, they're full. They're full in the mornings. The rest of the day, I mean, they're scattered hit and miss. You get families there playing in the evening after school sometimes. But most of the people play pickleball in the morning. So, and many, many cities have built 4, and then they wound up building 6 or 8. I think the more, the better, and we need them in one area.
Thank you.
So we'll pursue the,
Would you two like to speak at all, or?
My name is Larry Trace. I'm the president of the Medina Pickleball Association. And I echo many of the thoughts that Carol presented. I do agree that it is a social game, and it's a much better situation to have more courts in one area. And either, whether it's Ray Mellert or AI Root, I think there should be some thought, at least, or consideration towards, future expanding. So I think that would be like I said, something to keep in mind. That my only concern, I think, is the responses I would get from AI Root would be, well, we've discussed it already, the limitations that the school would impart on us, like, the courts are unavailable for a certain period of time. But if it is a 2-week window, that certainly doesn't seem to be a big issue.
Yeah.
But if it was like, if school's in session, you can't be on the court, that restrictive, obviously it wouldn't. But.
It was a little restrictive during COVID because they were very limited. They had PE classes outside a lot more during that time, and they needed all the hard surface that, so
Right.
that during the fall and spring when it's muddy and wet. So most of that has gone away now. They're back in the gym.
Okay.
And so.
But no, I think it's just speaking for the association. I think most of the members would, love the AI Root option. That would be fantastic. So.
And I guess as far as future expansion, I don't think, Jansen, I guess if we did this project on that end at Root, there's nothing that says at this point that we would take away that space at Mellard, that in the future, if we ever needed more courts, that could still be an option in that space, or?
Yeah, it certainly could. We don't have any other plans for that. We just wanted to identify it as future recreation area in the concept.
Mayor?
Yeah, so really, it's 6 new ones, but then we have 1 at Sam Massey, we have 2 at Ken Cleveland, so now that's 9 outside and 6 that we designate inside at the rec center. So you add all of those up, that's 14, my math. Right?
Or, 15?
Right,
And plus the ones at Whitetail that are
correct, yeah.
5 there too.
So I think that's a reasonable start. I guess we're not saying that in the future, because none of us can predict what the future holds, that more may not be needed, but I'm thinking from going from the 3 with the 5 inside to 9 with the 5 inside is a pretty reasonable start, I think, for the city, and then to do it collaboratively to where the schools get the benefit and the city gets the benefit, in my mind, just makes the most sense. I don't know, Jim, if Reggie or Paul would like to.
Yeah, that's what I was going to make sure they both had a chance to talk to.
I keep hearing about, people being excited about pickleball, and I'm constantly reading articles about the popularity of it. And I have to say, it's not just for the blue and the gray hairs, because when my kids come home from out of state to visit, I have my own set, and we go over to Massey and we play, and it's just a lot of fun. It's great exercise, and like Carol indicated, it is very social. That's, it's across the street from my house. So I heard the ping pongs of it, and went out and checked it out, and didn't know any of these people, didn't have my own paddle or anything, and they were extremely accepting and invited me to play, and it's just a lot of fun. So I anticipate, that going forward, this is going to take off even more in the city of Medina, just like some of the other sports that our citizens participate in. So I think this is a great step in including everyone to eventually be able to participate as they would like to. Thank you.
Paul?
I have zero athletic ability. But I think option number 3 is the right way to go.
Thank you. So I know what the rest of the council is going to ask is, how are we going to pay for this?
So we do have approval to use ARPA funds, and it was included with our original project list when we submitted those well over a year and a half ago now.
Okay. And I know at one point we were looking at that AARP grant, but is that is that still an option as far as helping both the schools and the city as far as the cost? Or?
To my recollection, that we were not successful in getting that. Barbara did try and looked into it.
I just wasn't sure if it was something you can apply for again and again, or whether it was.
I can check with Barbara.
Well, it sounds like option 3 is what we're moving toward, and I appreciate, gosh, Carol, years ago when we all sat down, your passion for this, and, I thank you for not letting up on it, and, I think we're finally getting closer to having something happen. So I guess I would entertain a motion where we would move forward with option 3 and move it to finance and talk about it there, and I will handle letting the schools know that it's moving forward, at least at this point, from this first committee.
I make a motion that we accept option 3 as presented by our Parks Director to move it forward to finance for further discussion.
Second.
Jansen, did you have something else you wanted to add?
We can talk about it later. It's fine.
Okay. Any further discussion? Nope. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you again for being here, and we'll keep you posted on things that will probably be on finance in 2 weeks here. And, Okay, our second item is the skate park survey and design. I think, gosh, it was 2007. I can't believe it's been 15 years since we first set up the skate park at Reagan Park. But in 15 years, it's had a lot of wear and tear and a lot of use, and it's always, I don't think I've ever cut through there without seeing somebody using it. I know it's well utilized, but I guess we're at the point where we've got to talk about the maintenance and repair and what do we do here going forward. So I'll let Jansen start.
All right. Kurt is here this evening as well. He's been kind of tasked with trying to keep up with the skate park and making sure that we can keep many of the features open because it does get a lot of use. So before I get into the survey that we had completed, Kurt had kind of put together a little report of what we've got into in the last 2 years. Jared has some slides. They're going to show some of the pictures. So our original skate park is a wooden substructure with plywood over top of framing, and then a material called skate light that is fastened to the top of it. It was custom built on site. And being that it's wood and it's sitting on concrete, it continues to deteriorate. We've had a number of incidents. We've had at least 2 entrapments since I've been here where people have fallen through and the fire department had to extract them from the structure. We have went back in our records, and since 2016, we've spent approximately $27,000 repairing the skate park, not including any of our staff time. In 2021 alone, we spent, our full-time and part-time staff spent 3 weeks repairing soft spots in the top of features, removing the side panels, the decking, to make repairs to the deteriorating structure and supports. We've re-welded grind rails. We've painted the park numerous times to cover up graffiti, which is, to be expected, I guess, if you will. In 2022, this year so far, we spent over 2 weeks repairing damage to 2 features. We've completely replaced a portion of the ramp that you see on the bottom left-hand corner there. We've replaced top rails, again, all the substructure and supports to some of the decking. The fun box and grind box were totally replaced and rebuilt and all had soft spots. Recently, due to the cost of skate light material, we stopped purchasing new skate light and have just reused and made patches, because what we found is the farther we dig into the structure, the more we discover. So we've tried to keep our repairs to areas that need the most attention immediately. So we're at the point where we need to come up with a plan, because the last thing that we want to do as a department is to completely remove the skate park, because then we're really going to find out how many people use it. So we engaged American Ramp Company through the Sourcewell Cooperative Purchasing Program, and they did a survey to the community. We put it out on our social media channels. I did share it. Sherry Patterson's here. I shared it with her son, and he put it on his Instagram account, and we got a pretty good response. You had to actually complete the survey in order for your information to be included. So when looking at that, about 40% of the people using the skate park are from the 44256 zip code. Surprisingly, there's a lot of people that drive from a relatively far distance to use it. The age group that this amenity serves, 52% were 19 to 30. The rest you can see up there on the board. We're predominantly, our use is mostly skateboards, but we do see a lot of inline skaters and scooters, and a few BMX bikes. A lot of the younger kids are using the scooters, and they might have their bikes out there. And most of what I've seen, the skaters tend to be that 17 to 30-ish range. Their skill level, 52% reported they're intermediate and 36% reported that they're advanced. 71% of the people who visit drive, 18% carpool, 6.5% have their parents bring them, and 3% skate or ride. So one of the questions I thought was interesting, how often do you use the park? 51% of 207 people use it weekly, and 23% of those are monthly, 17% are every day. The busiest traffic time is from 3 to 7 p.m. and 29% using it later than 7 p.m. if possible. We then asked some questions about what types of features they would like to see in a new skate park. This was to kind of help us with the design phase. And then we asked some questions and allowed them to provide comments in the survey. And most of these are just select responses that were picked, but to make sure we asked all different types of riders. And the one common theme in the comments was that we need to replace the concrete. There's 10,000 square feet of concrete in the recessed area where the skate park is, and it is starting to spald, and the gravel is popping up through, which makes for an uneven riding surface, especially when you're on hard plastic wheels or on rubber wheels if you're on a scooter or inline skates. So they had noted that if we're going to do anything, we have to incorporate concrete into the project, which we were not planning on until this survey. So I worked with American Ramp Company and their designer to come up with a few options for consideration, but at the same time in the back of my mind knowing that we don't exactly have funding for this. So I tried to keep it within reason. There were some comments about wanting concrete skate park, basically a brand new build, which to have something less, it would be a much smaller size for essentially 2 to 3 times the cost for concrete. So the way around that we thought was feasible would be to incorporate some concrete elements that are precast into some of the features of the park. So you'll see those when we get to the design. But most of the structure that is quoted is galvanized steel. It's bolted together in place and then has metal ramp surfacing on it. And the substructure has a 20-year warranty period. There is some maintenance that does have to happen to these. The metal is coated with a rubberized coating, basically a thick paint, and the ramps would need touched up with paint periodically to keep up with them. So we started out with a bare minimum design, a design that they felt met all of our needs, and then a go big design. And I reeled that into what I felt was an appropriate budget, and weeded out some of the elements, and we came up with 2 options. This is option 1, that the biggest challenge with our skate park is it's in a recessed area, and there's a drain in the middle of it. So it limits what we can put in there because all the water runs to the middle. Otherwise, we'd have a swimming pool. So this design is it's an improved, significantly improved park, and it enables more riders to use it because there's this one has 3 different flow. I'm going to stand up if you don't mind because it's a lot easier to show you what I'm talking about, unless you want to do it. So one of the things that we're looking at is there's 3 different ways that you can ride this. You can have a run that goes this direction, you can run in the half pipe, and you can run up top. Right now, our park can be used basically in 2 runs, and there is the opportunity where people are crisscrossing, which limits how many people can be on the park and your experience when you're there. This project came in at $210,805, excluding concrete. To take a step back, the original skate park, like you had mentioned, was built in 2007. It was the budget was $75,000, and it was a wooden structure. That company is no longer in business, and wooden structures have a lifespan of approximately 5 years before you really need to start doing a lot of maintenance on them. Sherry was pretty instrumental in the skate park committee. We committed $50,000 as a city, and she had informed me today. I'm glad she's here because I did not know that $25,000 was from open space and then $25,000 was from the Pick a Park fund. The remaining $25,000 was raised through the Stevenson Foundation and some other community donors. The second option comes in at $255,646. It again has one main run, a second side run, and then a half pipe, and then some elements here, some concrete boxes, some rails, and a precast concrete jersey barrier. This one has a little bit more flow. It has one additional concrete element and some extra rails up top. It also has a third access point up onto the larger box up top. The design of this one probably would serve us a little bit better because there's more to do, but it comes at additional cost. Really, where we're at is I need some direction on what to do and where to go, and figure out a funding source. Otherwise, we're going to be at a crossroads with the increased maintenance that we're seeing on the existing skate park.
Jansen, rather than replace all of the concrete, the existing concrete, is it possible to treat it or put something on there other than tearing it all out and starting fresh?
So, two responses. We don't have to tear out the existing concrete. We can pour over top of it. You have to put gravel down, and then we can put new, fresh concrete on top with a broomed finish. The budget for that's about $50,000. I did meet with, correct, yeah. So this, it's an expensive project, and I'm just concerned because we don't have a plan, and we can't continue to do what we're doing with an aging structure because safety is beginning to become a real concern. I did meet with Patton and the engineering department out there to see if there was a way we could grind it, grind the concrete down with a diamond wheel, but then we run into issues where now we have a slick surface. It doesn't have a broom finish on it, and any time it rains, it's going to be a major concern. So we're looking at whatever these designs are, plus about $50,000 for concrete.
And that was my concern as I sat here listening. I don't want to put 200-some thousand into this and then not fix the surface area, because it seems like that would not be prudent to do it that way. But I also understand, I mean, I guess from 2007 till now, you know, that's a big increase. And I always have a soft spot for this project because it was really brought forward by the young people of Medina here who really were wanting this. And like I said, I feel good every time I drive through there and see kids using it. I love it after school that they're out doing something outdoors and not playing video games. No offense to video games, but I love when kids are outdoors after school.
And there's no grants, you know, available that would partially address our needs here, or I know there's still foundations out there that we could approach and try to get some funding from, but again, it's such a high price tag item, but it's also needed in our community too. I mean, there's just, you know, if we got 207 responses, you know, that's just a fraction of the people that would actually use the thing that are going to take the time to fill out a survey, so I think the need's there, but funding's going to be the question.
Yeah, funding will be, there's NatureWorks funding, but that typically is divided, in the past, it's been about $80,000-$90,000 for the county, and then you're competing amongst the other
Sure.
individuals. That has worked on smaller projects for us. We use NatureWorks for our poured and placed playground surface at Sam Macy Park. I guess the problem with this project is it's replacing an existing one.
Sure.
So that might be a little difficult.
Now, and I know I've seen this in the media at times over the years, that, some of the BMX bike providers and the skateboard manufacturers used to assist communities with building these parks because obviously then they can make money selling their product. And I would have no idea who to contact to see if that still exists or.
Some of those do exist. I had talked with the company about and asked them some questions about funding. And I know Tony Hawk has a foundation, but I was told that it was specific for concrete skate parks, and the projects had to exceed $500,000.
Oh.
So, we can continue looking. Sherry just told me about Vans funding a portion of the skate park in Hudson, I believe it was. But we'll have to look, into that to see if this would fit within what they're looking to support. It's a little bit of a challenge because this is an above-ground skate park, and the trend is going towards in-ground concrete skate parks.
Okay.
Which I was hesitant to even look into that because we're starting from, scratch, and we're talking a very high budget number just to even get something. And then, to me, it just didn't make sense because it's such a perfect location. There's a parking lot, there's a restroom, we have everything there, we have surveillance system. We're kind of really limited with what our options are in this spot.
I love too that we repurposed that space there that, was the sewage
Right.
plant for the city.
Dump road.
I guess, so Denny, I hear you're interested in still doing something. Bill, I guess it's going to probably be up to us to then talk to council to see if everybody's on board with still having a skate park.
Yeah, I agree with Denny. I mean, we have a skate park. We had a skate park. We have a facility that's in need of a great deal of improvement. And really, I agree 100% that the number of people that use it is way more than the people that responded to the survey. So we simply need to, but it's not simply, is to find that kind of fund, find the funding, to incorporate into the project. I think we recognize the need, and that it's well used, has been well used, and it is a benefit. So, but the funding, yeah, I think can we move this to council and then, and based on just looking for funding.
So I think, Jansen, you're hearing from the three of us, we're certainly, as public properties, we'd like to continue to have a skate park, and I like these ideas. I do personally feel I'd like to figure out the cement part of it too, as far as improving that. I hate to spend $210,000 on a surface that's not great. So we're probably looking at $260,000. But yeah, Sherry, I do want to, one of the questions I have, I don't know if Jansen or Sherry know that, how much was the one in Hudson that they just, is that a fairly new one? Yep. Oh, I'm sorry, you know what, yeah, there should be.
I just talked to my son on the phone because he's working out of town, and he thought that it was 80,000 from Vans. But
80,000 that they contributed toward the Hudson. And do you know what the overall cost of Hudson's?
I do not. I can research it.
I just
or-
wondered if it was similar in size to ours, and,
I do not know all
Okay.
that. But I do know that I brought my son's scrapbook that I made from 2005, 2006. When I called Mark Colasar back then, and I worked with him, and then it was Ken Kaminsky, and then Mayor Lever at the beginning to get this, because this is a sport for these kids, and they didn't have a ball diamond or a basketball court. So us two moms and all these skater kids had to raise $10,000 in order for this.
I remember that.
Yeah. So, I mean, this was before social media and cell phones, so we were knocking on doors. My son, who is now almost 30, still comes to this park. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, he golfs and skates. That's what he does. And all his friends, and they love this skate park. So what I'm hoping is that Jansen could meet with a group of these skaters that have the best interest for this park and what we can do, and try to find funding, because it's important to get the right kind of material, because if it's all metal, it poses a lot of problems. It's extra hot in the summer, and it's very loud. And so if Jansen, and he's been wonderful emailing me and my son about this. So these men, not boys, are willing to put in the work to try to find funding and give their input.
Good.
and I will say, the mayor and I still sit on several of foundations. We're both still on Stevenson Foundation. I'm more than willing to try, and I know the mayor is on one that I'm not on, and Beckley Foundation is giving out money again too, so we can certainly try when we get to that point of figuring out how much we need to raise.
That'd be greatly appreciated.
Reggie, how about,
I've had people in my ward express concern about the dangerousness of the park and how their children are utilizing it. So I certainly agree with having an opportunity for the youth or young adults that participate in that. Certainly not something I could ever do. I'd have hurt myself a long time ago. But I agree we need to have an avenue for those people that want to utilize that park. In my past life, being president of 2 sports associations, one of the mechanisms that we used to raise money was going out into the community. We had fences around our softball fields, and we had advertising where people, businesses paid to put signs on the fences that went around the fields. I would imagine that could be an opportunity to raise some funds for this skate park. At least something worth looking into.
so there's obviously 4 of us here, of the 7 that still would like to have a skate park and do something, and I appreciate the pictures, because I don't think until you really see just
Right.
the maintenance issues and how serious this is safety-wise, that we're really at the point we've got to do something. But I wonder if we should then, before we move it forward, do you want to see if we can get this group together with some of the people that use it, and then get some more information on what Hudson just did, and then just figure out what is the right, I mean, these are great starting points for design, but Sherry, I think I'm hearing you say that maybe metal is not necessarily the optimal choice of the skaters.
According to my son, I know Jansen's trying to stay within a budget, because we know wood's more expensive now. But they've been to all these skate parks, and they don't even go back to the metal ones.
Yeah, I don't
But-
think there's probably not any way we're going to end up with a $500,000.
Yeah,
I mean,
Hudson Skate Park is $500,000. They allocated $250,000. It's on their website, and they met with local skaters and companies, and they came up with $250,000 additional. Fans donated $50,000, and they increased the square footage by 2,500 square feet, and it's all concrete, which I greatly appreciate the advice that I've had from local skaters. That was the purpose of the survey. But in reality, what is really the limiting factor with our skate park is it's an above-ground park, it's in a recessed area, and it has to be assembled and built on-site. And our only option is either metal or wood.
And we see what happens with the wood as far as the lifespan.
Yeah. New concrete will make it significantly better because when these ramps are built, they're leveled to the concrete. And if your concrete's perfect and your ramps are brand new, it should address a lot of the concerns that we're hearing. They've changed the coating to the color that you see there because of issues with the heat being on the black metal. And they're building these pretty regularly. So I just, I can always appreciate input. That's a tough part about the job that I have. We have to listen to everybody, but then make the best decision for the community within a reasonable budget. And it's a tough thing to do. But I really think that if this goes forward, yes, there'll be some concerns, but mostly there's going to be a lot of excited kids for saving the skate park, improving it, and making it a better experience.
Right. Mayor?
Thank you. So I asked Jansen, just because I had lost track of it, I knew we had set aside some amount of money of the American Rescue Plan Act for the pickleballs. And now, because of the collaboration, we're using about 70,000 less. So if you took a ballpark of 300,000, give or take, and you take 70 off the top, then we have really 3 primary foundations that we could start with, being Fackley Stevenson, which supported this, I believe, in the first place, and now the Lincoln Foundation, Thomas and Jill Lincoln Foundation that I serve on with 2 other community members, and has a larger amount of money that they need to spend in a shorter amount of time because it's not a perpetual foundation. It was not intended to be perpetual. And then some of the other ideas that Sherry mentioned, like me and Reggie, maybe like Century Cycles, would want to donate an amount of money to have their name there, or some of the skateboard companies. So I think if we have a little bit of time to try to piece some of these things together, and I could talk to Don at the bank that Jim knows well, Don Mish, who oversees the wealth management group, and ask him to just kind of put some feelers out to the 3 foundation members, 3 foundation boards, and see if there would be input, and there's a chance that we could possibly pull this together. Now, just while I was talking, it entered my mind another person who has been very gracious in donating to the city is Murray and Sue Van Up. And Murray is an avid bike rider, not necessarily a BMX bike, but an avid bike rider. And, he talks so much about the sports and the activities and growing up in Medina and what was so special about that. I could foresee them also having an interest in helping to support that, as he did with the pool. When we reached out to him to ask him about assisting with the pool, he was very gracious in that regard as well. So I think you're right, Jim, and as a committee, that if we have a little bit more time to try to solidify some numbers, have Jansen meet with some of the groups, try to look at different funding sources, and see if we can put the pieces together to make this happen.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe we could move it out of public properties, but hold it before we bring it to finance until we can figure out a little bit more, some funding sources.
Yeah. You want to do that?
Yeah, there's no harm in that.
So I make a motion to pass this through public properties and hold it from finance till we just start determining some of the financial sources that are going to be available to us.
Second.
And then the only comment I would have to make is, I guess if nothing else, I hope Sherry, you see, we're still committed to having this, and Jansen, you know we want to do something about this, so it gives you a little bit of direction that we want to try to do whatever we can to keep a skate park there at Reagan Park.
And Kurt, thanks for your help, too.
And thanks for all your work keeping it repaired and
Yes.
maintained. I know it's no easy task. So.
I will ask, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to, I will ask Barbara as well, though, because she's got those grant searches that she can do, just to put in skate park, put in skateboard, put in BMX, and, see, maybe there's some things.
Sure, and maybe we start with vans. Maybe they're not going to give us 50, well, I don't know, maybe we can see if they would be interested at all. If they gave it to Hudson, did you say it was 50,000 to Hudson? And gave 10%, we'll take 30,000 from them.
Yeah.
For this. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, same sign. Anything else to come before public properties? Just want to thank the committee and everybody here tonight. These are really two great things, the pickleball and the skate park. I'm kind of excited for,
It's kind of fun to talk about these
yeah,
things.
it's really good things, good amenities here for the city.
Yes.
So, and well used. And all right, if there's no other business, we're adjourned. Thank you.
Good job, Jim.